Six Screens Telenetwork, the go-to site for your infinite source of precise, reliable, and factual material exposing the Watchtower organization.
Well, hello, everyone. My name's Rick Farron, and I've got my beautiful wife here, Susan Farron, sitting next to me. That's that beautiful blonde lady you see in the film on the video here tonight. But anyways, we're glad you're with us, and we have a program tonight. If you're an ex-Jehovah's Witness, you have not been if you haven't opened your internet and seen what was coming across this week about what happened in Colorado, you missed a lot. That's all you practically saw this week. It was the biggest story in the Watchtower this week. And what it was a man and a woman died. One committed suicide, one was killed at a Kingdom Hall in Colorado. And it was a terrible thing. And we're going to be talking about that tonight. We're going to spend a good hour and a half on that, maybe 2 hours. But we have a number of people will be coming in, and they will be sharing their thoughts with us. We're going to bring them on very, very shortly. But I'm just going to go into a little bit of I want to bring you guys up to speed. This was a tragedy. We're going to play a little clip from the tragedy, and you guys will be able to see it. But I think what I'll do first, I'm going to bring these guys on. We got Robert from Vermont. We're bringing him on.
Hello.
Hello, Robert. We've got Jimmy Bell.
Bobby, that's fun.
Coming out of North Carolina.
Jimmy, how you doing?
Just got on.
We got Angela and Dan. They'll be with us shortly.
Yeah.
And then coming in with we got Chad coming in. Chad's coming in from Illinois. Well, hello, guys. There he is.
Jimmy, you were funny last week.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And that lady is nice. She sings good songs, that lady. Didn't she sing last week? And hi, Dad.
Push on mute, maybe.
We got some problems with some sound here. We're gonna get to sound
on the left.
Is that me?
I think it's Ann and Angela and Dan, but they're gonna straighten it out. So don't worry. So anyways, what we do have here is a big story this week, and we want to talk about it because it was a story that really rocked everybody, not only the Jehovah's Witnesses, but also the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. And let's see, we're gonna bring this up here right now. This is one of the stories. Just a few days ago, it was released. So we're going to share this with the folks here tonight. So let me just do that now. And then those coming in that haven't heard about it, at least will give an idea. So I'm going to bring everybody out of the picture right now. And then we'll bring you back in. But we'll play the film so everybody could see it. I just wanted to make sure we had all you guys on with us. And let me just move up here a little bit. And we'll bring you all back in just a few seconds. And remember now, your microphone is your phone. Your microphone is a microphone. It picks up a lot. So we'll try to make it as clear as we can. But I'm going to bring this up here tonight. I'm going to show you the news release that came out recently, just a day or so ago. And then you can get an idea. You can get an idea of what actually did take place this week. So let's share my screen. Let me go over here and let's do this. I think this is the one we're going to watch. Yeah, right here. Let's open up. Let's listen in.
This is Kingdom Hall in Thornton.
Police say a man killed his wife and then killed himself. 9 News reporter Matt Jablow joins us from the scene. Matt, you've been there all day. What have we learned?
Jenny, one of the holiest days of the year quickly turned into one of the most tragic early this morning at a church here in Thornton.
It's sad. It's real sad.
Luis Sanchez says he heard what sounded like 2 gunshots right across the street from his apartment.
It's real bad, you know.
It was early Sunday morning, Christmas morning, at the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses on Milky Way in Thornton. When the shooting stopped, 2 people were dead. Thornton police say a husband killed his wife, then took his own life. Police say the couple were former members of the congregation.
Well, it's terrible happen any days, but mostly on the morning for time to the church open. 7:30 in the first service.
For a few hours after the shooting, the Adams County Bomb Squad investigated what were described as suspicious devices inside the church. No word yet on what, if anything, they found. In a written statement, the congregation here said, quote, "Our hearts go out to the family and friends of those who have been traumatized by the heinous actions that took the life of an innocent victim and threatened the lives of many others. Police have not yet released the names of the shooter or his wife." Jenny.
All right, Matt, thank you so much for your reporting.
Well, there you go. So I mean, that's that was what went on in Colorado. So if you guys were listening in, didn't know, it was a big story, and we're going to talk about it here tonight. But this is not the first time that Kingdom Halls have been targeted with bombs. As a matter of fact, just in North Carolina, just a year or so ago, another Kingdom Hall was actually targeted by a bomber, and it was a woman, and she was just fellowshipped evidently, and she targeted the hall. And then the biggest bomb that ever went off in a Kingdom Hall was in Australia back in 1985 in Sydney. 43 people were killed at a Kingdom Hall with a bomb blast that went off. And it's not just bombs. We have got the Kingdom Halls being firebombed up in Washington for the last few years. We've had a fire in a number of Kingdom Halls up there by the same arsonist. People are spray painting Kingdom Hall buildings and doors. Right here in my own neck of the woods, a few years back, we had a man trying to burn the Kingdom Hall down I went to. So this is very common. This is not rare anymore, but it seems like it's even happening more and more often. And all of these stories you're hearing, and then I even read on JW World News about an Ecuadorian Jehovah's Witness who stabbed her baby. I mean, these are the type of mayhem stories you're reading, and this is all going on in the Jehovah's Witness world. She killed the baby, and I wanted to bring that up as well because there's so much violence.
Rick?
Yes.
Rick, I'm sorry. This is Zachary. The Sydney thing.
I'm there.
One person was. Hi. The one person was killed, and 43 people were injured.
Oh, I'm sorry.
With that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm glad you spoke up, Zach. I had a bunch of this stuff put together fast. Yeah. Okay. So.
And a lot of, I remember the injuries. Some of the injuries were perforated eardrums. I remember that from when it happened. It was mid-'80s. All right, that was all.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. As I go back in the story, right? Yeah, it's exactly true. So thank you, Zach, for correcting me on that. I stand corrected. All right. So
you're welcome.
All right. So we do have. Let me make sure we get everybody on. We do have Chad here as well. Let me get Chad on. All right. So what we're going to do here, we have him now. Now, Robert, you just kind of hang in there now.
I'm sorry.
All right. You hang in there and just relax, and you just sit back and enjoy the program, and we're going to get your thoughts on it as well. But,
Okay, sorry.
All right, that's okay. That's all right. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to, first of all, what I'm going to do, so you know what the story is. You heard the story. So we're going to bring Chad from Illinois. Chad, he has a number of programs here. He has 2 programs here on the 6 screens. We're always glad to have Chad with us. He's a good man. And Chad, what is it that you have heard? Because what it is so many conflicting stories. We're all sitting here hypothesizing because we're not, and no one's really getting the real truth. So, Chad, what have you heard?
Well, I did get an email from a friend of mine in Colorado. He sent me a link to a local news source, and I forwarded the link to you. It's on your messenger and also your email. And they have finally released the names of the people who died, and they've given some other information. One of the things we found out was that the husband, they were a Hispanic couple. The husband was a union electric worker, and he was laid off in December of 2021. And then it was after that they were disfellowshipped, and it was specifically mentioned in the one article that I read that they were not welcome at that Kingdom Hall at all. So, I mean, that should be taken into consideration. And also, before the attempted bombing of the Kingdom Hall, he had went to the local union hall for the United Electric Workers, and he had set off a bomb there. There was an explosion. There was some fire damage. I don't think the whole building is gone, but it was a pretty, there was havoc that day in Thornton, Colorado. And yeah, I think now from another article I read, they showed up at the Kingdom Hall together in a black pickup truck. He told her to drive to the back. That's where he tried to drop 3 bombs off through a window. Only one of them ignited. It did not explode, but it did start a fire. And there was 2 people in the Kingdom Hall that were able to put that out with a fire extinguisher, thankfully, so no one else got hurt. But right after that, he had his wife step out, and it was a murder-suicide.
Yeah,
so
well,
that's
yeah,
pretty much the majority of it.
Yeah, no, in fact, yeah, I haven't heard some of that, but no, I must have had about 15, 20 people call me and write me and even listening. I listened to 10 news reports, but that one sounds feasible. That one sounds very, very feasible. And we'll even get the audience's thoughts on this as well. But what I would like to do now, let's go to, hey, Robert, are you ready to do a comment on this? Hey, you've heard about this, right?
Yeah, it's a sad story, I'm telling you.
Yeah, what do you think, Robert? I mean, what do you know about this? Anything?
No, I don't know. I live in Vermont. Colorado is way away from me. But
Yeah.
it's a sad story.
Sad, yeah. Well, let's go to Jimmy Bell now. Jimmy, he's got his own YouTube channel. He's all over Facebook. We all know him. He has a program on the 6 screens called The Big Picture. Jimmy, what are you hearing, buddy?
Well, where do you want me to start? What I'm thinking. You saw my video that I did about this a couple of days ago. Did you have any questions from that? Maybe a starting point?
Yeah, I forget the term you use. Something about a flag.
I call it. I look at it as a false flag.
False flag, right? Yeah.
And let me tell you guys, y'all know my content. You know how I feel about corruption and manipulation and deflection. Y'all know how I feel about that. And so when I first heard this story happen, immediately my mind started running because it's just something didn't set right with me on this story. Now, when I did my YouTube video, I told everyone that, hey, I could be wrong about this and that we need to give it a 24 to 72 hour rule. Basically, when a story comes out in the media, we need to give it time to progress before we go making absolute judgments on things. And that's that was the message I was trying to give out in that video. Is like, look, we don't know what happened yet. Now, the other thing is I know that everybody has watched a detective show, or you've gone to a movie and there's a detective trying to figure stuff out. Now that detective, as he's going through, as you're watching this detective, he's got all these different things lined out, and he's got ideas, he's got thoughts. Okay, what happened here? Why did this happen? Why does that happen? And some of those thoughts that he may have had could be wrong. Now, when this detective is doing that, does anybody call him a conspiracy theorist? No, they don't. They say he's being a detective. So in this story, my points have been geared to being like investigative journalism, because I do think that this story needs to be investigated. Now, unfortunately, I don't know of anybody that we have boots on the ground in Thornton, Colorado to do that work necessary to get the true information, because there's just too many things that don't add up to me on this. Any questions, thoughts? Somebody want to chime in for a second?
Yeah, well, maybe Jimmy, maybe we might be able to get somebody coming in from Colorado tonight, so we will see. Yeah, no, in fact, well, see what happens when we don't get the truth. When we really don't get the truth, then all of these conspiracies and thoughts and all kinds of things come into play. But no, I see where you're coming from, Jimmy.
Yeah.
It doesn't pass the smell test.
Yeah, and the thing is there's nothing wrong with thinking outside the box. And that is the problem that, you know, we as Americans and humans, we've actually been brainwashed to think inside the box. This is the story. We're putting it out. You have to believe it. I mean, you think about how many stories have come out over the past 2 years that we were told to believe and that the science is settled. But after some time, we find out that all these stories are bogus. Now, my thing is I think Watchtower knew about this. I think they knew about it. The reason I say that is because I know that Watchtower is part of the deep state. And whenever you, and going back to the false flag thing, whenever there's information that comes out that looks negative, for example, on Watchtower, they're going to want to deflect the conversation. So what happened 3 days before the shooting happened in Colorado, 143 miles away? We had that elder, or I think he was an elder, I don't know, but we had somebody charged with pedophilia in that area, right? Does everybody know that?
Yeah, in fact, that was about a week or so before this incident happened.
Yeah, it wasn't that long before this happened.
Right.
Okay. Now, I could be wrong, but it's worth thinking about it and actually digging into it a little bit more. But we know, as being Jehovah's Witnesses, we know that you pretty much know all the Jehovah's Witnesses, or at least the elders, in a certain radius. I mean, when I was in Virginia, I mean, people knew who I was 3 states away. And they say that this elder in Colorado was a very prominent elder. So he gets charged. So now that's the story in that area. All the witnesses are like, oh my God. You know, of course, Watchtower is going to try to hide it from them as much as they can. But people know that this guy was charged with pedophilia. So how do you get that bad light off of you in that particular area? You create an event. Now, I have no evidence of this, but it's just me thinking
thing to do
outside the box.
It's a very common thing to do.
So how do we know? And that's why I call it a false flag. A false flag means that the event didn't happen. Yes, there was a murder. Yes, there was a suicide. Yes, I feel horrible about that. But Watchtower could use this to deflect from the story about the pedophile. And then button it all up, tidy it all up, work with the media. I called the detective office. I called Thornton Police Department, and I got the name of the detective that I was being transferred to. I left my message. I never got a call back. It doesn't surprise me that I never got a call back. But I was going to ask a couple of things. I was going to ask, was any member of Watchtower, a lawyer or anything, involved in discussing the story with the FBI or the SBI or the police department? Not the FBI. But was a Watchtower official involved in that process? What two people were in the hall when the guy and when the husband and wife were there? Who was in the hall? We don't know. They say it was an elder. We don't know. So there's just some things that just I have questions, and there's not enough answers, and we may never get the answers. But I think something else has gone on.
Well, Jimmy, no. In fact, I wanted to bring this up because is it in the Watchtower's best interest to keep the truth away here? I mean, I'm just thinking out loud. I'm thinking that, the world is really now coming to grips with how evil and heinous the Watchtower is.
Mm-hmm.
So now if it's reported, and it is being reported, that they were disfellowshipped, as the article in the newspaper and some of the reports said, that the witnesses were former witnesses. the world doesn't really know what goes on to a witness when they're disfellowshipped.
Correct.
And if that ever got out, I mean, right now there's countries that are really coming down on the witness because of that disfellowshipping practice. So the Watchtower's best interest here would to be able to keep this as silent as they possibly can. But it is starting to seep out.
Well, see, the thing is too, Rick, is you got to look at what audience is Watchtower trying to deflect the news from, or trying to protect. The people in the Watchtower, the Jehovah's Witnesses. They don't want them seeing these stories. So if they come out with, and they very well could have been 2 former members, they could have been disfellowship. Yes. Okay. Yeah. We know that's, it's been mentioned. But how does Watchtower spin that? See, they were former members of Jehovah's organization. And because of their decisions, they decided to leave. And when you leave Jehovah's organization, look what happens. So they talk about this and don't talk about the pedo that was charged a week before it happened. This is a more sensational story than the pedo story. So a false flag is saying that there is an event, but the people that created it blame it on somebody else when it was actually them. And another thing they'll do is, because they're former witnesses, they could have been apostates. And we know how apostates are. So stick with Jehovah's organization. We will protect you so you don't have a mental breakdown like these people.
Good, Jimmy. Susan, what did you want to say? Hold on.
Wait,
hold on, Pixie. Go ahead, Susan.
I just wanted to mention one of the articles was from People magazine. They said that the night before the shooting, the male in this instance, the ex-brother, he called some people up and said he wanted to come back to the Kingdom Hall. To come back. And they said, oh, we'll contact the elders tomorrow. So evidently he might have contacted the elders, because there's a lot of anger in this crime. You can see that.
There is.
You don't shoot your wife and shoot somebody in the Kingdom Hall parking lot or throw bombs at the Kingdom Hall unless you're really angry.
Oh, yeah.
So he's really angry. So if he called an elder and said, I want to come back, and they'd say, well, Joe Schmo, you can't come back because of thus and such. You got to be out 6 months a year or whatever. And they're trying to come back. Well, the Watchtower is trying to distance themselves as much as possible. Well, they're out. They're not part of the congregation. We don't want anything to do with them. We don't want anybody to know that they said they wanted to come back, and that we shun people and don't let them come back, and that if they're sinners, they're not welcome in our church. So if you're a sinner, don't come to the Kingdom Hall.
And what message does that send to every Jehovah's Witness?
Well, you got a good story there, Jimmy. No, in fact, very, very good. We'll listen to Pixie. Then we're gonna thank you, Jimmy. We're gonna go on to, but stay in with us if you like, Jim. We'll come back to you.
Yeah.
And we're gonna.
Question for Jimmy.
Go ahead for Jimmy. Yes.
In the newsroom, we start from scratch because I haven't read People magazine. First thing we do is get a coroner report on the 2 sad dead cases to find out, was it really suicide? Jimmy says there were 2 other people in the Kingdom Hall. How do we know that one of those people didn't pull the trigger? We don't. The other thing is, if the man was a really good electrician, and I don't mean to put any comedy on the fact that he and his wife are dead, but if he was a really good electrician, those bombs would have blown that whole block up. So those are the questions I have. Coroner report of cause of death in both cases. Was it suicide? 2, what other humans were there on the scene? And 3, report from the bomb squad. And I would even maybe interview the union leader at the Union Hall to find out who this man was. And if I could, I would interview those elders if they were willing to talk to me. That's how you work in a newsroom.
This is why I said we need an investigative journalist on this. That's the only way you're going to be able to get the truth about this story.
Well, I'm Pulitzer nominated, but I'm retired. I'm not going down to Colorado. But if you can talk to the coroner, you'll have information that People magazine doesn't have.
Yep. I agree.
Hey, guys.
Very good. Well, thank you, Jimmy. Well, what we're going to do, we're going to bring on, we're going to bring Angela and Dan on. Let me do that right now. We're going to bring Angela and Dan. Well, we're getting a little bit of echo, but I think we'll be all right here. Let's see what happens. All right, so you're ready to go, Angela and Dan? You're on with us.
Are you there, Rick?
Yeah, we're here. Yep.
Huh, weird. It's not coming in very good, but I'm going to use my other phone here. Hold on.
I think that's gonna work.
You can't. You want to just talk through the computer? Okay, use the other phone. That's fine. We'll bring you back.
To bring it closer.
Yeah.
We'll bring you right back. Yeah, we'll bring you back. Let's go over to we'll bring you back. Hold on, Dan and Angela. We're now going to go to. I'm going to unmute Joe and Fran. They're on with us. Hello, Joe and Fran.
Hello.
Hello. So, anyways, you guys, I'm glad you came on with us tonight. Now, you will be having a program coming up the end of the month all about suicide and the Watchtower. And the question that I would have for you folks, is do you think in any way that this disfellowshipping caused this man to snap?
Well, personally, I honestly, I only know what they say, and frankly, people lie. So I really don't know. But I do know, and I'm positive, that when you wrong a person, a man especially, and when you steal something very dear from him, and if he can't get any legal recourse, he probably would do anything he could to right the wrong or to take vengeance. It's just so humanly normal to do that. So is that likely that someone would do that in that situation? Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, he probably wouldn't feel like a man if he didn't do something like that. It's just the way we're built.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, I don't know if anybody mentioned it. I know they did earlier about the PR that Hendricks came on. Did anyone mention it? It just seems so fishy. Okay, you mentioned it, Jimmy, because we had a hard time getting on. It just seems so fishy that he had spoken about that, a day or 2 days before that. Bombs, suicide. It's as if they were planning it. It just seems so fishy, the whole thing.
I think there's, I mean, I don't like to give them more credit than they deserve, but I think Watchtower is smart enough to realize that there's going to be more and more extreme reactions against them. In other words, the sheep are starting to grow teeth, and they're starting to bite back, and they know that, and frankly, they want to stand ready to spin that story back toward their favor.
Well, Joe, I do like that saying that the sheep are growing teeth.
Yeah.
The ex-witnesses are biting back. Yeah. Now, I will just say this, that, shunning, disfellowshipping, judicial committee hearing, let's go with that. That's where all this begins. And there was a judicial committee hearing in my Kingdom Hall. And the young girl, she was a young girl, 16, 17 years old. Mm-hmm. And it was terrible what happened to her. The elders shared this information with me. That what happened when they disfellowshipped her, she ran out into the street, and she was shaking. She was like having a seizure, and she fell on the road, collapsed. Fortunately, no cars were coming by. And the poor girl, I mean, she was so distraught. People, that judicial committee hearing is when a lot of these problems start. Yeah. And some people can take it, some can't. It doesn't mean that they're weak, but it all depends on the circumstances. And it can be so devastating. But what I did here, Robert, you hold on. We're going to get to you in just a second or two. I'm going to give you my thoughts. I got at least 15, 20 people calling me this week and actually even more than that, emailing me as well. And I did get a call from a very reputable person today. And they had some inside information they wanted to share with me. So, I'll bring that on here tonight. And what it was the person that shared this information. Now, this is third hand, so, don't take it to the bank and cash it. But what they were saying is the man was disfellowshipped. And when he was disfellowshipped, it caused so much anguish. He didn't want to be, but they just fellowshipped him. They didn't say for what. But what happened is the wife still wanted to remain one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And in the process of wanting to do that, she kind of distanced herself from the husband.
Right.
And she went to the bank and took all the money out of his bank account. And then, yes, so she really caused some problems for the man. So he was distraught. His wife was still a Jehovah's Witness, a full-blooded Jehovah's Witness. And what happened is he was so distraught being disfellowshipped that he went to the Kingdom Hall, and she evidently was going there as well because there was a meeting that morning. So she was going to the Kingdom Hall, and she was in the parking lot getting ready to go into the hall. And the husband came in his pickup truck, and he was so distraught he was going to blow the Kingdom Hall up. So evidently the witness woman, but listen, friends, don't take this to the bank and cash it, but this is what I heard. So the witness woman probably tried to stop him. What are you doing? What are you doing? I'm going to blow the Kingdom Hall up. So he broke the window, was going to throw some bombs in there. And then she was probably trying to stop him, and he shot and he killed her. And that's the story I got. And Chad was on a little early. He's still on here with us. But that wasn't the only crime the man presented to the police that day. He also, earlier, before going to the Kingdom Hall, he had issues to pick with a former boss. And so he went and tried to blow their building up. He brought a bucket into the building filled with some type of bomb device of some type and tried to blow that building up as well, and then went to the Kingdom Hall. So, but what I'm saying, what I'm looking at here is a case of the Watchtower is being very, very careful on what they say. And I can't even believe that they came out with these statements after the news broadcast, and they're praying for the family and they're concerned. The Watchtower isn't concerned one bit. The Watchtower they don't pray for other people. The only one they pray for, because I was a witness for 50 years, and I said many, many prayers on the platform, but I never, ever, ever prayed for anybody but the Jehovah's Witnesses. So they're covering this all up. It's going to come out, and it's going to be a big article, maybe even a television program on what drove these people to do it and how heinous the Watchtower is. Yep.
Rick, just a question.
Rick?
Go ahead, Fran. I'm sorry. We'll hold on the phone line. We'll bring you on in just a second. Let's listen to what Fran has to say. Go ahead, Fran.
I just wondered, was it verified that they were married? Because one of the reports I thought
Yes,
that they
it was.
two different names. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, there's many estranged relationships in the Watchtower. I can't tell you how many relationships I knew when I was in there that were really, they weren't really husband and wife in love with each other. They were just with each other because of the Watchtower. So, there's so many couples like that, but this is a sad story. But what I think really, what you could take from this more than anything is, Joe said it earlier, and I forget who else mentioned it, but when you have family and your wife, and you have a connection with people, and then you have an organization that tries to rip you apart, that is the worst thing in the world. I don't know of anything that would be worse for people. And the Watchtower does this, and they've been getting away with it for years, but finally now the government is catching up on them. Yep.
Rick, may I say something?
Rick?
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Well, Jimmy, let's bring a guy on. We got someone coming in from the telephone line. Then we'll go ahead, sir. Come on with us.
Rick, this is Chad.
Who is it?
I just wanted to say I have a friend in Pueblo, Colorado, and it sounds like to me that there's some connection between where the man worked, that maybe his boss was a Jehovah's Witness. And maybe there was a connection between the work and the Kingdom Hall.
Yeah.
But also, the guy that was in Woodland Park was in a very huge family. And they had a lot of family members in Colorado Springs. and he got thrown in prison for being a pedophile, but that went way back. It went clear back into the early 70s. And he knew him years ago. But that's all I know about that. But to me, it just seems like there's a connection between where the man worked and the Kingdom Hall. But I don't know that for sure.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming in, Jeff. Thank you very much.
And Rick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to let you know there was also, I did find out the shop steward or whoever it was that was in charge of the Union Hall, they did call the police on him about a year ago because he had made threats to go in and shoot the place up. And they had filed and got a restraining order against him. And they didn't go for, there's another one they could have went for, but they didn't. They thought it was covered. But if they would have went for another one, it's called an ERPO, I think is what it's called, then they would have seized his firearms. So, I mean, this was reported. There was threats being made. The police knew about it. There was a restraining order in effect. He wasn't even supposed to be at that Union Hall. So...
Yeah. Now, listen, folks, if you are on the 6 Screens video line, on the telephone line, and you're not speaking up, mute yourself by hitting *6. But if you want to speak up, go ahead right now. You're on with us. We got a number of people want to talk. Go ahead. Speak up. If not, mute yourself. Yep. All right. So,
hey, Rick.
Yes, who's this?
This is Rick from California.
Yes, Rick.
I'm honestly shocked that this doesn't happen more often. A guy I've been listening to over the years, his name is Paul Elam. He talks a lot about men's issues. He's commented a lot on how many divorced and non-custodial fathers basically either they'll kill themselves or they'll retaliate against their ex-wives and kill them, or maybe even go so far as to kill their whole family. But usually that's only after they've been put through the ringer by an extremely biased court system, which strips them of everything, the home, the possessions, the relationship with the kids, and leaves them destitute and without really a support group. Well, disfellowshipping is like that times 1,000, because you really are treated like you're subhuman. So I'm really shocked that this doesn't happen more often.
Well, we all agree with that, Rick. We really do. Well, thank you, Rick, for calling in. Thank you for calling in.
If I can say something about that quickly, the society has, for as long as we've seen it, have groomed males in the organization, basically to be beta males. Now, a beta male, if you insult them, they'll cry. In other words, they won't how often pitch it. An alpha male will, do you twice as hard. And they've been somewhat successful for so long in creating these beta males. Well, I think it's reached its limit. And now they're finding out the threshold point is tipped. And just the fact that Hendricks and those guys are starting to come up with the spin factor, they know it's going to happen more and more. These people are at their desperate point. The men at their desperate point. They've got nothing left to lose. The only thing left to do is to strike out. And they're going to more and more. They know that. They know that. And that's what we're going to watch. We're going to watch that continue.
Well, you're absolutely right, Joe. What we're going to do here, we do have Robert. He's got the Yankee hat on there. He's got to say, Robert, go ahead.
I wanted to say hello to those two people first. That couple. I like their videos. They're awesome. Those two in the, the one that just talked, that guy.
Oh, thank you, Joe.
Oh, Joe and Fran.
I love you. I love your videos. You guys rule.
I love you all. That's
I
why.
know. So, okay, talk about this fellowshipping, okay? The second time I got this fellowship, okay, it was because I wanted to live with a girl. It was going to be my wife. They say you can't live with her because it's fornication and all that, right? So I had one of those lovely, things. And then this elder he had a smirk on his face. I got so mad. Oh, you're this fellowship now, right? So as soon as I walked through the door, I closed the door, I threw the Bible all across the King Hall. I was not happy with that decision at all. It was crazy. This is a real story too. It's crazy. It's depressing to go in there and then three guys tell you, oh, you're disfellowship. We prayed on it. Oh, and you're disfellowshipped. Oh, thank you very much. And I got a question for you, Rick. Rick, you still there?
I'm here. Yep.
Okay, remember you said you went to see one of the governing body guys?
Yeah.
Do you know, when you went there, do you meet a Brother Grizzle there?
No.
He's one of the governing body that used to be when we were in New York and Queens. He used to be our, whatever it's called, I forgot.
What's his name, Brother Grizzo?
Yeah, Brother Grizzle. Yeah.
No, he never was a governing body member.
Yes, he was. Yeah, Brother Grizzle was.
Is that right? All right. Yeah. No, I never met him. No.
You know who I do not like is Anthony Morrison.
Oh yeah, Anthony Morrison.
I told my father about the the video about him in the liquor store. Oh, you can't believe all you can see. It's fake.
Well, that's what they say, Robert. But no, my friend, I got to know him pretty good. Was Garrett Loesch? Yeah, he's the guy that I got to know.
I never heard of him, but I don't like Anthony Morrison.
All right. Well, listen, you hang in there, Robert.
I know. Let people talk. I just wanted to say hi.
All right. Well, that's good. We like to always hear from Robert, so that's good. So you hang in there. Now we're gonna go over to Ann, Angela, and Dan. So they're on here with us right now, and I want to get Dan and Angela's perspective on what went on out there in Colorado, guys.
Do you want to say anything?
No,
we used to live out there. We used to work a lot in Thornton, and we were actually not too far from the Kingdom Hall in Woodland Park, which is just up the hill. We used to live in Colorado Springs, which is just down the hill. So, I wasn't familiar with the brothers up there, but we lived in that area and we worked all around Denver. We were in Denver for about 25 years. But, one thing I would say, this is just my perspective, is that Watchtower breeds insanity over time. I'm sorry, but it does. You have to have a split mind to be in there, right? I mean, how many times have they said the end's going to come, 75 passes, the generation prophecy, the overlapping. And what are you told? What are you told when you hear that? You're told a lie. You're told, well, that really didn't happen. Well, we really didn't prophesy, blah, 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 right? But here's what's going on. And that's why they used to call the sisters the Prozac sisters. You know what I mean? Those are antidepressants. Not that there's anything wrong if somebody needs antidepressants, but antidepressants have caused a lot of suicides, Prozac especially. And when I think of these brothers, I wrote down this. Just think about what these guys have had to do this year. Think about this. Selling off of kingdom halls, right? And convention centers by the hundreds. And then told in the same breath a month later, we need to build 1,500 more, 15,000, and we need 1,500 this year. So I wrote down all the things. Now you think about this. Would this not produce insanity in your mind? Begging for fucking money. Excuse my language. But that was one of the biggest talking points we used to have when we were a Jehovah's Witness, that we don't ask for money. We don't pass the plate. They pass the plate. They beg. So they got asking for money. They're selling off their kingdom halls. They're exposing pedophiles. They're shredding their old channel literature. Friends are leaving. They're looking like damn TV evangelists. They're building for the future. We're watching the Australian Australian Royal Commission lie their asses off in front of them. Where they're false prophecies, fear to a level that they've never had before. Think about this, guys. They're telling these freaking people in the hall, get your to-go bags. They're doing drills, emergency drills. They're keeping the fear level up so high that the people don't think. And they don't want them to think. They want them to follow. Like, here's what's happening. Here's what's going on, my perspective. People are freaking popping. People are popping. And I heard an article years ago, and it was called Sowing Your Sheaves. And it was called Nice. And they wrote about this man who was the nicest man in the neighborhood, and everybody loved him. But he didn't have a voice. And you know, in the witnesses, you don't have a voice because witnesses have taken that over. You are to shut up, you're to follow, you know, you're to listen to us like your life depends on it, because it does. You can't ask questions. So you are totally unanchored within yourself. You're in Ozland. You're living in Oz. You're living in a false reality that they painted for you, right? You've lost touch with yourself. And then you've got these guys messing with your head. We're a chariot. We're on the move. Keep up with us. What are you talking about? Where are you going? We're building halls. We're getting rid of halls. We're getting rid of literature. You know, it's like that would breed insanity within itself. And I got to tell you, people are starting to pop. And I don't know. I was just going through this. I was just looking at it. And the fear now has escalated to a point where I've never seen it before. The fear, I think people are freaking out. They don't know what to do. Now, this guy that got this fellowship, you can imagine. Now, think about this. You have given Watchtower everything you have. You've given them your hours. You pioneered. You've done this. You become an elder. You've done this. You lose your job. You get into some depression. You tell the elder to go to hell and mind his own business. He disfellowships you. And then you can't get back. Everybody knows when you can't get back, you're on a 2 to 10 year sentence. I mean, you're going to pop. I just feel sorry for these people that are being treated this way. It's just,
especially with no job for one whole entire year, this guy hadn't had. And you can just imagine, I mean, it's a double whammy,
Right.
losing a job a year before, literally, and then having the witnesses not accept him this entire time either. I mean, it's just a double whammy there. It's pretty horrible. Yeah, I did want to say one thing. You know, I lived in Pine, Colorado for a very long time, and not all that far. So I was in the mountains, and to get to Woodland Park, it was like this back way to Woodland Park, and then you could also go down from Denver to Colorado Springs. But Thornton to Denver, that alone is an hour drive, and then to get to Colorado Springs is another hour and a half drive. Then up to Woodland Park, another 20 minutes. So I don't know. I mean, when Dan was in Colorado, everybody knew everything about everyone. If you got disfellowshipped, if you went from one congregation to another, which he did, they would always know everything there is to know. But I kind of don't really feel like people from Thornton they don't find themselves in the mountain area of Woodland Park. They just don't. I just don't really think it's related, in my opinion, because it's so far off the beaten path. You have to go in the mountains, and mountain people don't usually live in Thornton. It's just the breed. Thornton's just not like that. So I highly doubt if it's related. I really don't believe that.
I got a question for you, Rick. You guys, have you guys heard of the new installment plan that they're doing? Have you guys heard of that emergency notorious events thing they're putting in place? Have you guys heard of that?
No.
Yeah, it's a leak.
I've only heard the
They
name.
said it was a leak video. Did you? Yeah, so it's a governing body, and it was Robert Hendricks, and he was saying they were having a conversation. Apparently, it was private. It was supposed to never come out. But they said that they were having like a discussion, and they actually said this was like 24 hours, according to this guy who recorded it and put it out there. 24 hours before this happened, he said that, you know, they were having this discussion that they were going to put in. It was called the Emergency Notorious Events. They said they're happening weekly. And this was a talk between two governing bodies. I know one was Hendricks. I don't know the other one. And so they're installing this Emergency Act, which means they're going to train people to start being a media spokesman for these events like this that happened at Kingdom Halls. And it was so funny listening to him. I think you have it, Rick, there. But the guy was saying, you know, we know Jehovah has protected us at the assemblies, he says. But then he says, but we also know that bad things happen to Jehovah's Witnesses. And then he says, we don't know how Jehovah balances all that out. This is the discussion they're having
today.
And then he says, we don't know how high the hedge is. And I had to figure out how high the hedge is. But what he was trying to say was how high the hedge of protection is. Like sometimes Jehovah's going to allow some people to get hurt and killed maybe. And then other times, you might be safe. But he says, we can't guarantee it anymore. So they are setting up, I think it's called a PIP or something. You guys can see it. You Go ahead.
Well, yeah. In fact, I'll step in here. That is the public information desk, and Hendricks was speaking to some people on how the Watchtower is going to handle public information, and that did come across YouTube. It came across the ex-witness world this week, and they were actually talking right prior. In fact, a couple of days before this happened, a couple of days before Christmas Day, Hendricks was talking to some other witnesses on how the public information department was going to handle killings and bombings at Kingdom Hall.
Oh, wow.
Then a couple of days later, you got it right there. You're doing it, Jimmy. Yeah. So he was saying that he was saying this a couple of days before this happened. So do they have information on this? Or are they expecting? Jimmy's holding it up. Yeah, Jimmy does have it. Yeah. So Jimmy, what do you want to say about that, Jimmy?
This is only like a 2-minute clip. Would you like me to play it?
Yeah, go ahead and play it. Yeah.
All right.
Jimmy will play the clip. So this actually came out before, a couple of days before. In fact, I think it was a day before.
Yeah, it was 24 hours before. But let me preface this so we don't get the wrong idea about this situation.
Yeah.
This public information department, they actually do meet every quarter. Okay. So it's not like this came out this 24 hours and it called everything. It's just the timing is off. There's questions about the timing, but they do this every quarter. So let me play this.
Was that responded to our Love Never Fails International Convention. It was something else. You could see Jehovah's blessing on it. But then there's a second point here that's mentioned, Aaron, about emergency or notorious event. Well, I didn't know we had anything to do with that.
Yeah, this is going to be something completely new for us. And anybody that watches the news knows that these notorious events seem to happen every week. And they affect our brotherhood. Here we're going to be gathered together in these venues. We're going to do our level best to keep things safe. But if there is something that happens that is traumatic, PID, and specifically those local spokesmen are going to need to know how to handle those situations in the right way.
Yeah, indeed. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. We know that Jehovah's Angels have protected our conventions. We also know that bad things happen to Jehovah's people. We don't know how Jehovah balances those things. We just don't. We don't know how high the hedge is. And we don't know whether something will happen in this system of things, whether there'll be a shooting at a Kingdom Hall or at a convention, or whether we'll have a bomb or a bomb threat or a shooting or a significant event. We have had even at the local assembly halls here, somebody mowed down on the sidewalk. So the responsibility will be to take control of that event from a media and community perspective. Finally, the documentation of the event. Our documentation teams.
So that's the thing that I talk about, the fact that they are coordinating with local medias to figure out how to spin these stories. And I just want to make a few last comments on this, Rick, and then I just got to jet because I'm going to go hang out with Carissa.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah. Okay. So we know the media gets stories out there really quick. Propaganda. We saw stories where they called the Kingdom Hall a temple. We know that's not right. We seen some stories say that the woman actually was in the vehicle backing up to the Kingdom Hall, and that they were working together, which that makes no sense to me. The other thing that was brought out was that said that when the police went to go search their home, they had tagged their belongings to go to other folks, I guess family members. So if that is the case and that's true, of course, this would be premeditated, but was the wife in on her did she know what the husband? Probably not. Don't know. Questions that need to be answered. The part about the authorities knowing that this guy did bomb making. Was it Chad? Did you just mention that? Was it you that mentioned that? Yeah.
Yes.
So why is it that every time we hear a story about a lone gunman or a school shooter, why are they always known to the FBI or to the police department? Why hasn't something been done about that? But every time something like this happens, yeah, the police, yeah, he was on our radar, but we didn't do nothing about it. We knew about this. And so the other thing is panic. I do believe, if you watch the big picture, you know, I talk about the deep state panicking about everything. Watchtower is part of that. I do believe. And so Watchtower is in complete panic mode. So they're going to do anything that they can to protect their organization. They don't care about the people. They care about the organization. So if it means spinning a story or blaming the apostates or whatever, that's what they're going to do. Like I said in my YouTube video, David Splain said, you know, it's a war on the apostates. So just look outside the box when these stories happen. Don't jump to conclusions immediately. And it does need to be investigated. I wish we had somebody there who could go around and ask these questions. You know, why were they there so early? You know?
Well, you know, a person's writing in here on YouTube. Why is there no pictures of the people? Why is there no pictures of the people that were actually in this scene of problems here? Why pictures of the woman or the husband?
Was there video footage from the Kingdom Hall? Or she went to the bank. When did she go to the bank? Let's find out. You know, the timeline is key here. And no one is wanting to put that timeline together. And that timeline that will tell you the whole story.
Well, Jimmy,
That's
thank
my opinion, guys.
Jimmy.
Well, thank you, Jimmy, for coming in and sharing those thoughts.
Can I relate one more thing?
Yeah,
quickly.
Jimmy, you go ahead, Jimmy, and go ahead and take off and be with
Happy
your
New
family.
Year.
About 5 more
Happy New
minutes.
Year.
Happy
Thank
New
you.
Year.
Happy New
I'll hang
Year.
out for 5 more
Happy.
minutes.
Happy.
Hold on, Robert. We got more.
I just wanted to say bye, Jimmy.
Okay, bye, Jimmy. Okay, Jimmy, thank you very much for coming on tonight. Go be with your wife and yeah, be safe. Yeah.
All right, y'all take care.
Thank you. Tell your wife thank you for letting you come on. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
All right. All right. Okay, we got some more people on the telephone line want to come in. So come on, people. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got a real quick question. Hey, this is Gilbert. I just want to ask this: if that was my brother who say did the killing, and he killed his wife, I would be like, if this happens all the time, you see on the news, and there's always like a brother, a mother, a father, somebody in the relative outside will go on social media, will go to the news and start saying, you know, I talked to my brother the other day, or I talked to my sister the other day, and we're not getting that. The victims here, the husband and wife, where's their mom and dad? Where's their brothers and sisters? Where's the co-workers on social media or on the news saying, you know, telling their stories? Why is like all that silent?
They may actually squash that. Gilbert, they may actually squash that.
The family might just be waiting, because I remember when Marshall Applewhite of the Heaven's Gate cult, after he died and all that happened, his son waited about 3 weeks before his family issued a statement. So it could just be that the family's holding off for a while till they get all the information, find out what's going on.
Well, that's possible, Chad. But I'll tell you what, I'm looking at some of these YouTube comments, and I'll tell you, they're just as confused and wondering. And, you know, why is it that, you know, usually you hear of a murder or suicide, you know, a day or so after the story is there. But I saw 10 different stories coming across the news media out there, and all of them kind of contradicted each other. But, you know, not trying to make a big deal out of this or trying to make more out of it than it is. But the point is, and I can know it for a fact, Watchtower is devious. Watchtower will do everything they can to cover up anything that's going to bring bad press to them. And even for them to come on and say they made a release to the families, they want everyone to know they're praying for them, as I said earlier, that is not in line with Watchtower's way of doing business.
They don't pray for
Right.
disfellowship. They don't pray for disfellowship people. That's last on their list.
You better believe it.
Rick, quick perspective. Our nephew, younger man, just got through with training to be a court guard. And he would be a guard, a fully armed guard in a court of law. Well, a judicial committee is a court of law. In the regular court of law, Matt is his name. He carries a gun. He carries a taser. He carries the mace. He carries handcuffs, and who knows whatever else. There's a reason why, because when the judge issues the ruling, there's no telling what the defendant's going to do, and usually they do something that's rash. Well, I think that when those judicial committees are getting together now, they're finding out that they should expect the very same kind of reaction that the normal courts of law get. You know, fair is fair. If they want to be judge, jury, and executioner, they should expect the same thing that's normal in society, a retaliation. And I think they know that now. They know that that's likely to happen more and more.
Well, Rick, I just think that it seems kind of obvious to me that something is kind of up with the fact that we just had this crazy, amazing little interview today that Jimmy played a minute ago that seemed as if they got a phone call. They've already been dealing with this situation in Colorado and concerned about it, and they're already planning on what they're going to do and having a discussion about it. It really seems that way to me. And I wonder if they were Jehovah's Witnesses who are the family members. So they were already being prepped on what to do and what to say if this guy who's maybe threatening really did what he was thinking to do, and then sure enough something did go down the very next day. So I don't know, I think it's kind of suspicious that they talk about the very exact act that they just experienced then right after they get done saying that on that little show. And I think it's highly suspicious. And again, I wonder if the relatives are also Jehovah's Witnesses and they were warned how to handle it. So I don't know. I just think there's something up. I really do.
Well, Angela, in fact, most people here are on your team. We're all getting it. And, I'll tell you what, we were reporting tonight on Norway. All year long, Watchtower has been fighting the country of Norway. Norway wants to take away their charitable status. They're going to lose $2 million a year. And Watchtower is in trouble over there in Norway because Norway realizes what happens when people are shunned. And that's what the whole problem is. Norway's taking their money away because the people are shunned over there, and the Watchtower is creating problems in families' lives. So they don't want any of this to get out. I mean, any country, because also Denmark is looking into the witnesses, and Sweden, and Belgium, and a number of other European countries, as well as Canada, are looking into the witnesses. And any press that gets out that, someone snapped and killed their wife and killed themselves because of being shunned, that cannot get out, I'll guarantee you. So they're doing everything they can to stop it. Very good thought, Angela. Hey, I'm going to open up the lines. We got a lot of people that pent up. They want to say something. Let's hear what they have to say. You guys want to come on? Come on. You're on with us. Hit *6. I'm sure you have your thoughts on it. Don't be a stranger. Hit *6. Come on. What do you guys think? I mean, you've been hearing the program here tonight. What do you think? You have your thoughts on it? I mean, nobody knows for sure what actually took place. But if you have thoughts on it, we'd love to hear from you. It looks like go ahead. You're on with us.
Rick?
Yes.
This is Carrie.
Hi, Carrie.
Hi, honey. My thoughts on this are that it's an ongoing investigation. And as you know how the police work, a lot of stuff isn't going to be told. And I'm sure they're going to go to the family members, friends of the Kingdom Hall, people in there, anything that they know, heard. We don't know a lot of details, and they're not going to put them out there. the police are not going to put them out there. So, until they get it all together. I mean, this is a big deal.
Well, it is a big deal, Carrie, for us ex-witnesses. I mean, this isn't the assassination of President Kennedy. I mean, this is a pretty routine thing. I mean, we're looking at it as big because the ex-witness world is really putting it under the microscope. But, there should be more being told here. And what I'm thinking, you probably said, well, Rick, but what would you want to be? What do you want to hear about it? Well, I want to hear the Watchtower being very honest, or I want to hear some news reporter say, we looked into the Jehovah's Witnesses and they have a cruel punishment for people who leave the Watchtower. They are shunned. They are disconnected from their family. I haven't heard anything like that. And, if you're a good reporter, that's what you would do. You'd look up, oh, gee, these people were former witnesses. What happens when you leave? That's what they should be reporting. But boy, they're keeping that under the wraps. They don't want anyone to know about that.
Well, I wouldn't agree with that totally, Rick. I mean, you know how these things go, especially if the police have their hands on it. There's a lot more, especially if there were bombs. The FBI is going to get in on this also. So we don't know a lot of stuff. They're not going to put it out there. We know 2 people died, and I put it in the suite, the people's names and how old they were. And if you notice, I don't know if you got to see what I wrote, but they had 2 different last names. She was 44 and he was what? I don't know, 47,
46.
something like that. It said nothing about children. It said nothing about family, nothing. It's just, they reported what they knew, and that's it. We will find out what happened later on, and we know how the Watchtower is going to deal with this. It's another thing, nail in their coffin, but we can't expect every detail. We can't, because it takes a while for this to happen.
Well, this happened a week ago, Carrie. This happened a week ago.
Yeah, I know
and
that.
I do understand what you're saying.
Well,
yeah.
Well, okay.
Well, no, hold on. I want to speak with Carrie here. Hold on, caller. No, Carrie, listen, we love you dearly, but let me just explain this. This is not, let me explain this, because this is not, the news media today is not doing their job. This is not the news media when we were growing up. When you heard a news program, they gave you all the story. We're not getting it. And these guys call themselves reporters. Oh, geez, we have a person dead in the Kingdom Hall, and we found out that they were excommunicated. Well, I would be the first one if I was a reporter. I'd see, well, what happens when a person's excommunicated from the witnesses? Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I have something I want to add into this. This Colorado murder-suicide thing, this is going to be a witch hunt for the XJW community and a witch hunt for the apostates. Anything to try to out them out as criminals. You think about Donald Trump and the Mar-a-Lago raid. This is what Watchtower is trying to do.
You know something, Guy. Thank you, Guy. I'm going to give you a gold medal for that. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, they come up with all these stories on Trump, and I'm not being political here, but it's a witch hunt. It's just diverting the truth. The truth should be known here. If these people were worth their weight in gold and they were good reporters, they would say, listen, the Jehovah's Witnesses have a problem with shunning. And then look at how many people have committed suicide because of it. Thank you, Guy. Thank you. I should send you a prize. Listen, what I want you to do, I want you to send me your address. All right, JW World News. I want to send you a prize for tonight. Okay, Guy?
Hey, Rick, I just... You want to know why I didn't become a reporter? Because I intended to become a journalist. And I didn't, because something happened. I was given an assignment to get together with one of the news reporters and follow them around for a day. And what this lady did was she hung around in Denver, Colorado, where they were making the laws. So I went down with her. It was a whole entire day event. We got all done. and it was winding up towards the end of the afternoon. And so then she went into this, literally, it wasn't even any doors that separated the courtroom where these laws were being made to this room over on the side. And we went over there, and this big, huge bunch of screens were going on. And it was news that was given them to pick from to decide what they wanted to report on. And they were to pick things from these, what was provided for them, and that's what they reported on. And I was absolutely disgusted, because it wasn't like what I thought I was going to end up doing. It was a journalist, and that's go interview people and find my own story. But they had it given to them. They didn't have to do anything. And as you probably maybe seen, they've shown it on TV where everybody's saying the same exact words verbatim over and over in all the different news stations. And so, I just feel like today's reporting is not what it used to be. I mean, back in 1978 was when that happened to me. And because of that event, I decided not to be a journalist, because it was so corrupt already in 1978. So I don't suppose it's gotten any better. It's like people are afraid to go and do their own digging and reporting. I don't know. Somehow I think that they fear it. I really do. It's like, how hard is it to go and hang and find the coroner, or go to the place where their home is and interview the neighbors? I mean, how hard is it? And then you'd have some genuine raw material to share. But how come we're not, like you said, Rick, we're not hearing anything from anyone? And my feeling is because reporters aren't doing their damn job. They're lazy asses. They don't do a damn thing, but just get the stuff off the syndicated screens like they did in 1978 and just copy what they're being told to say. And that disgusts me. So I just want to.
Well, Angela, I like what you said. And I have to say that, I went to broadcasting school back in 1960, 67, 66. And one of the first things, I didn't want to go into news anyways, but one of the first things they did teach us, if you're going to be a news reporter, you want to ask why, when, what, where. These are what you ask. Now, these reporters should be saying, why did this happen? This is bad reporting. I want that to come out. It happened because these people were being shunned in the watchtower. That's why it happened.
Yeah.
It would be a big story. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll ask this question, and it's a stretch. But that child that was molested, the pedo victim, was he or she related to the man, the couple? That's a stretch. But you talk about a diversion. What if he was related? Yeah. But you can't even ask that question and get an answer.
No. I mean, it's not to look at friends. No one's gonna lose any sleep tonight because we can't figure out what happened. But
Right.
The point is, this is a niche network. We deal with the world of the ex-Jehovah's Witness. And that's why I was just hoping and even praying to some degree that this would come out, that man snapped because he just lost everything when he was disfellowshipped.
I believe that.
See,
Yep.
so, yeah.
And I got to point something else out, Rick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you think about it, they were already planning on discussing this whole thing of basically creating spin doctors at every Kingdom Hall, so that when there's this kind of an emergency circumstance, there's a designated person to give us response to the media, whatever. That's not something you just decide to do overnight. That's something that takes months to even plan before you even announce it as a possibility. And you have to do research into the financial costs, because if you're going to do that, you're looking at tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars just here in the United States to be able to do that. Now, before you make an investment like that, you have to look at what the return is going to be. Now, is it something that they think might be worthy of looking into? Sure. Okay. That's why they've, said they might be doing this. But then the question comes to mind, how much of this has already happened where they needed a spin doctor on the scene? And that's where I'm going to in this. What has already happened? What have they barely been able to keep quiet? What have they not been able to keep quiet? How would a spin doctor be able to really help them out before they even make this
Well,
happen?
that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, Chad.
They
I mean,
haven't
this
they
is a
haven't-
big. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
They haven't kept us quiet.
Right.
No, they're keeping everybody else quiet, and it'll go back to normal. The people in Thornton, they'll go up and they'll stop at Starbucks tomorrow morning on their way to work. Well, it won't be tomorrow morning, but Tuesday or whatever. It'll be history. It'll be water under the bridge. But the ex-witnesses are not going to let this one go. I'll tell you.
See, just if I could say, I'm doing my part in our community to get the community to say something about it. Yeah. I tell people that we come into contact with, I ask them, do you know any Jehovah's Witnesses? Oh, no, I don't know anybody. Or, oh yeah, they came by the other day, but I don't see anything. I said, look, ask them questions. Ask them different questions. And if you know something, tell them something. Mm-hmm. And if you don't mind, relate this to your friends. Let them know. Don't stay quiet about it.
Well, absolutely. Well, listen, we got a lot more people still on the phone. We got a lot of people in what we call the green zone. Did you want to speak up and say something? You're on our telephone line. It's *6. You're on with us. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. The people we got right now, we have got a number of people commenting on our Facebook as well as our YouTube. And boy, I'll tell you what, these guys, they're all in agreement. I haven't seen someone yet that said enough already. Nobody said that at all. They're all concerned with the real story. But it's just amazing to me. It's just totally, totally amazing.
Hey, Rick, I just kind of really do hope, I wish that somebody would just tap the phone or get the phone records between what went down after that happened at that Thornton, Kingdom Hall with the Jehovah's Witness elders and the leaders, and what conversations went on before the event. I would love to have that happen. But, again, in the way reporting's done anymore, nobody wants to get involved. And, Dan and I went down, as you know, down, what was it, Ohio-ish area, trying to investigate that Michael's
Tennessee
death. And I'm telling you what, we dug and dug and dug, and I'll tell you, it was tight-lipped, tight-mouthed. Somehow you get the strong feeling that the witnesses control everything in that area. And as you know from Dan and I's talks on here, a year ago, about all the stuff that we discovered, that the witnesses are very heavily bosses, if you will, like in the New Yorkish area, where they control literally the government. And I know this seems preposterous, but I'm just telling you, they have a lot more authority than we possibly know. Literally, we've heard people literally bowing down on their knees and kissing the ring finger of a governing body people. I mean, it's way bigger than we can possibly imagine. And I imagine that the hush hush is very controlled, and that people wanting to report cannot. And they won't even go about it. And what we discovered with Michael was, absolutely, you could tell they were shut down. They were not allowed to say. And the guy even said that the lady who's in the reporting room where we called the news, that she was a Jehovah's Witness. And so, no, they absolutely are not going to report on it because she's a Jehovah's Witness. And sorry, we're not going to report on it. And I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, why not? It's news. What, you're just going to let this go just because you're afraid of this woman? But that was a situation, guys. So, I mean, I think this is way worse than we can possibly imagine. And I don't suppose they're going to go digging. They don't want to. So the only way we're going to know anything is through people that we know, that know a little something because they happen to be there. That's going to be about it. I just want to tell you. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
I'm
Angela,
sorry. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, Angela, I got to agree with you 100%. When I heard about this, I called a friend of mine. He lives in Colorado. He lives in a suburb. I can't remember the name of the city, but it's a suburb of Denver. He knows that community. He knows Thornton. And I told him, hey, when you get any information, I need you to feed it to me. I said, do you know anybody on the police department there in Thornton, or are you familiar with their chaplain? Because he's a pastor. I'm a minister. He's a minister. We have a big network. I said, is there any way you can put me in touch with this? And he said, well, I don't know. I'll do some poking around, see what I can find. And so far, he's been feeding me, little bits and pieces here and there. When he gets a local article, any information, he'll send it to me. He hasn't been able to find a whole lot yet. And, I just got to say, that whole idea, like what you were saying with when Michael died, and that woman who worked at the newspaper you know, she was used as a pawn because they could have used her to keep the story spun. They were already using her as a spin doctor.
Well, we lost your sound there, Chad. But you know what I wanted to say too is there was one newspaper that I did read, and I read a number of stories. I heard a bunch of broadcasts on TV, but there was one newspaper, and the only one I did read that said that the man who shot and killed his wife and then killed himself, that man actually called the Kingdom Hall on Saturday night, that same hall, according to what the paper said. And he was very interested in wanting to come back to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses again. But they said that you'll have to, you know, go through the procedures of, you know, being reinstated. There was only one newspaper that said that. But I wish that the news reporters would have said that too. That, you know, this man called the Kingdom Hall last night and was wanting to come back in, but they kind of gave him the runaround. See, these are things you gotta, that's good reporting, because that gets down to the nitty gritty. That man was angry with that Kingdom Hall to the point, who is going to go and bomb a Kingdom Hall? I mean, really, who is going to go and do that? Somebody
who's ticked off.
You better believe it. So that's what we got. And it's quite the story. And hopefully something will come out. I'll go along with Carrie on the 6 Greens video suite. Carrie, listen, it might come out, but I'm afraid that everyone's going to go back to normal. Like I say, stop and get their coffee in the morning, and it's water under the bridge. It's water under the bridge.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't they call it abandonment? You know, I just think shunning sounds like, you know, when other churches hear shunning, it's just shunning. You know, it's kind of looking down maybe, but it's not cutting you off from your family. It's not abandonment. And, you know, this man, when he was down, you know, his mind was totally hijacked by Jehovah's Witnesses. You know, they're like a coup. You know, they throw out the carrot. They promise you tomorrow paradise. But you give it all. You've given your education. You've given your whole life. You've given everything. And then to be told you're disfellowshipped and have to go through those deals to get back, you know you're going to be abandoned. That's like kicking a man in the fucking teeth when he's down. Excuse my language, but it just irks me. These guys in the organization, there's no way out. You know, Rick, when I saw my brother, I got to tell you, this is when I became a full-blown activist. They got my dad with shame. He died of shame. They got my mother. My mother died saying, Jehovah's going to kill me. Jehovah's going to kill me. And she died. And then I saw they had my younger brother. And then my oldest brother, when I looked at him face to face, when he finally showed up at a restaurant that I was driving through, he couldn't look at me. And I was like, Doug. He had dementia. And the Watchtower caused that dementia because they split your mind. They tell you light is light, dark is dark. 75 passed. They said we got new light. Generation prophecy passed. We got new light. You know, and what it was the light was going out. Now, what happens, Rick, when you've been lied to, and then you've been told not to trust your own inner GPS? We all have an inner GPS. We all have what they call a bullshit meter. We all have a meter within us that says this is a bunch of shit. But Watchtower has extracted that from us. They said, you better listen to us like your life depends on it, because it does. We are the mediator. We have been placed here by Jehovah. We are appointed over all his belongings, and we're to give you your spiritual food at the proper time. What that means, Rick, is you have unanchored within yourself any reasoning ability, any ability to reflect. So you're floating around in Oz, letting these crazy people on top telling you're a chariot running up and down and sideways and forth. You better keep up with us. It's insanity. And Rick, I saw my dad go nuts. I saw my mother go nuts. I saw my oldest brother go nuts. And I said, I'm speaking out. I got to do something. I got to go back. I got to be able to put this together, how they got into insanity. My mother and dad were like movie stars.
Recording has started.
Anyway,
What?
they were like movie stars.
Somebody said something.
No, he's recording. But anyway, you know, I saw them deteriorate. And I got to tell you this too. I don't know why. But when I was going to the book studies, I was watching the sisters deteriorate. I looked at the picture of the sister and I said, what the hell's her hair falling out
Right.
for?
Oh
What's
my
wrong with her?
gosh.
And I was looking at
Oh,
everybody.
it's no hair at all.
Everybody was
Head
moving
slumped.
into this depression,
Oh, yeah.
but I realized it's watchtower dementia. Watchtower causes dementia, compartmentalization, split mind, schizophrenia, and I've watched it happen, and I'm still watching it happen. And I think the way it's going, these people are going to pop. I think they're going to pop one by one.
Well, you know, I want to say one thing too, is that shunning thing. You know,
It's
you can just
abandonment.
think about how the witnesses are, well, the governing body are having to deal with what's going on in Norway specifically right now. The heavy duty getting ready to lose their money because they're shunning policies. And then this comes up, and you know it's going to come down to that it was shunning. And I know that they want to keep that under wraps because if God forbid the word shunning is going to come out of their mouths, and then somehow they're going to be in trouble now in the United States too, heavy duty, because of this murder-suicide. And so I just feel like they're definitely afraid of anyone using the word shunning, and God forbid it come out of Thornton. Do you know?
Dan and Angela, I've got to totally agree with you. I've got to relate what's going on with us very quickly. Our daughter lives locally with her husband and our son as well. Normally, she would be attending to us regularly. For the past at least 2 months,
Since
October, nothing, absolutely nothing. Okay, so finally, I've been playing nice. So now finally, it's like that's it. Rather than go pound on the door and start doing something that they might call the police for, I said, I will call the police. I called the troopers. I called the state troopers, and I said, I'm not sure what to do. Here's the situation. I haven't heard from my daughter, who I normally hear from regularly. I'm very worried. You won't answer our calls. What do we do? And so she said, well, have you gone there and to check? Says, I don't think that's a good idea. Number one. And as far as calling, and she said, if I called, of course, she sees our caller ID. So then she instructed, she said, well, you can call, you dial what, *67, and that gives you a blank caller ID. I says, well, okay. But then she said, well, look, I can call for you. Okay, great. So she did, the trooper, it was a trooper, a woman trooper. She called and she got through to her. And thankfully, she at least spoke with her. And what my daughter said was, it's a family difference. That's an understatement. But at any rate, that was the next step, because my reaction, I guess it's like, that's it. I cannot sit still anymore. I will not sit still. And rather than go and do something that would be stupid or land me in jail, which I'm inclined to want to do, like that man perhaps wanted to do, I at least brought the police in on it. And I explained to them, I said, look, here's what's happening. There's Jehovah's Witnesses. They have this very unhealthy practice of directing their people to shun their family. And it causes all sorts of problems. It says, I need you to know that. I need you to understand that. And so we at least started that with her. And we're going to go forward with other agencies and other groups and whoever.
But the thing is, this organization triggers us. When we hear things like that, murder, suicide, all of us got triggered. My husband that night in bed, he wanted to go and do damage.
I will
to
tell you.
the,
I will
to
tell
the,
you.
to the brother that taught us the truth.
The brother that's
the truth. It's not the truth.
brother that basically tricked me into attending meetings. I said, I want to ruin that man.
Yeah.
I'm going to ruin that man.
That's what he said. The last thing he said when he went to bed that night.
I'm going to ruin that man in any way that I can, because he was also the one that directed my family not to get in touch with us.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that taught us originally.
Yeah.
He's the one. This was 36 years ago, and he's doing that. And it's like, we were a close family. Do I feel cheated? Do I feel stolen from? You better believe I do. Should I take it sitting down? I don't think so. Well, at any rate, so I said to myself, look, rash reactions aren't going to be a good idea. I don't think I'm going to go forward trying to ruin that man, but I'm going to do what I can to get other people involved and to get them on our side, so to speak, in our favor to do something about it. That's what we've been doing.
You know, and sadly, none of us knew what we were getting involved with. None of us knew the full story.
You're
When
darn
we
right.
came in, we didn't know if we left,
You're
our
darn
parents
right.
were going to hate us. We didn't know our families were going to be cut off. Now, think about these young kids.
Yeah.
This is where we need to put a law. Now, it's interesting, guys. I got to tell you, we just met a lady who writes laws for school. And I'm going to talk to her, the lady we're doing the island, because I'm going to ask her that it ought to be against the law to baptize children. Do you think they know what they're getting into when they tell their parents where to go and get out of their face and, you know, and then they get disfellowship and abandoned? They abandon teenagers.
As a teenager.
See, they don't know what they're getting into.
Oh,
so they're going to be held to those same standards. So I am going to try to get a law passed.
good,
I'm going to
Dan.
work it. And we know a lady that might be able to take us there, but that ought to be against the law.
Absolutely.
And it ought to move from shunning to abandonment.
That's right.
And abandonment, we've been abandoned, and we're all like orphans on here. And we're watching the governing body continue to go on, continue in their narcissism, continue in their hatred toward us. They hate us. They have a murderous attitude toward us. Just think about what they said to us. Won't you be glad when they're all dead? Fat ass Toni Morris. Won't you be glad when they're all dead? Can you imagine a preacher saying that from his pulpit? Any preacher going to any church and say, won't you be glad when they're all dead, those who left us? I mean, anyway.
You know, but you guys, isn't it interesting? Didn't you guys hear about the grandfather law that I thought got into effect, where, you know, you have a right to have time with your grandchildren? And interesting. I don't really hear anybody using the law, but I thought it came into effect.
It's only in certain states.
Oh, interesting. Thank you for that. I was living in Colorado, and my ex turned my kids against me, ended up marrying my sister, and they still call her mother today. And they don't have anything to do with me. I've been able to meet my grandchildren. It's been already, 18 years now. Haven't had, any Christmas with them for all this time. And I have a daughter who, at least she said, thank you for the gift card I sent through the email. It's like I don't know if you know this, but through Blue Mountain greeting cards, you can send it's kind of like a Visa card, but it's a card, and they have to choose where they want to spend it, and they print it out, and then it has a little barcode on it, and you just go to the restaurant and you use it. That's the only way that I can send a gift to this daughter, because she won't let me have her address or anything, or meet my granddaughter or anything else like that. But it's like there should be laws in place that, I don't know. I just think it's pretty crazy how the strict rules that we can't have anything to do with our family, not even the grandchildren, not anything at all. And it's heartbreaking. It is, guys, but I'm with you. I don't want to hurt anyone, and I don't want to ruin my ex-husband. I don't want to ruin my sister, who is a big, huge part of it either. But I mean, I would like to see them humbled, I suppose, but I don't know. It's wrong. It's never going to be right. But at the same token, I think God's helped me to not hate any about it, and to not have any hate in my heart, but that I just look to God to deal with it. You know what I mean? And my poor children are brainwashed, and God revealed to me that they're also Stockholm syndrome to death. So it's a double whammy for them. And so how could I judge them for the way they treat me? Right. They're doing the best they can. They're fearful of their captor, if you know what I mean, which is my ex-husband and my sister. And so, they're grown adults with children, and they're very much stuck in it. So you're not alone. I mean, there's plenty of other religions. I grew up in Worldwide Church of God, same kind of crapola in there. When you're disfellowshipped, you can't talk to anyone. And it's just a nasty business, but many people suffer through this throughout the world. But I do feel like it's a character building kind of a thing. I don't feel like it's totally an accident. I mean, it says in the Bible that every day was ordained and written in God's book before one of them came to be. So I believe that God knew it all in advance, and so it's here for our transformation, for our growth. As hard as that's there to hear, I do feel like I'm a different person for having been through it, and I've had to just kind of realize that just because no one wants to talk to me, my family, doesn't mean that I'm a piece of shit. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like God loves me, and I can make other family. It's not like people in the Bible times didn't have to make new family. Jesus certainly didn't have any wonderful time with his family. I can assure you of that. If you can read in there about how his brothers were treating him and what they said to him, and they couldn't stand the guy, most of them. I mean, of course, in the end, I know some of them turned around, but he had a rough time. He had a really rough time. And so it is for our transformation and our growth. And I really do feel that way. So we just have to, and we have to work with God to let the hate and the bitterness and the resentment out of our hearts. And by the way, I'm just got a book coming out on January the 3rd called Awakening from Unconscious Resentment. And it's talking about the saboteurs that go on in our relationships, because, you know, abuse in one place, you'll find that you have the same weaknesses in all these other areas of your life, and affects everything because of the way we were brought up and not having the right tools we needed in our relationships to have good, healthy ones, and including having your voice and that you matter and your feelings and your dreams, they matter. And so anyway, I'm excited to, you know, put that out there, but there's a lot of growth that's happened in our lives, right, guys? And hopefully we can continue allowing it and not let our hearts get dammed up from all the anger and hatred and bitterness and resentment that we all feel, because that clogs everything up and keeps us from flowing with God. So anyway, for whatever that's worth, I think.
Angela, I appreciate that. And you mentioned that our voice. In other words, if we fail to speak out in favor of what is needed and against what's bad, if we fail to, then we're not doing what we're in position to do.
That's right. But you know, it's interesting. It's like what really is interesting to me is how that different people back in the day in history have dealt with some of this kind of stuff. And they felt like they were righteous before God to fight all this and all of that. And I feel like they did good. But then when they were arrested and they were beaten and they were hung on their crosses and they were burned and they were whipped and beaten and all of that, it's like, okay, so then where's our character at that point? It's like, that's where it all comes down to the whole thing, guys, because then are we going to cuss them out? And are we going to, wish evil on them? Are we, how are we going to react? And of course, the right reaction is you got to realize that they're doing what they think is right. Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. You don't hate them for whipping you to the point of death or whatever they do to us. We can't hate. So it's tough because we got to get our voices. We got to speak out. We got to do our very level best against whatever we don't think is right in this world. But in the same token, not allow 1 ounce of hate or resentment or bitterness in. It's a tough little balance.
Well, I totally agree with that. You're saying that well, and we just can't. No, we don't want to show hatred. It's very difficult to take a big eraser and erase all of this. And I do like what Fran said earlier. Now, Fran, you said something that got me thinking. The reason why we're even bringing this all up tonight and talking about what happened in Colorado, you mentioned the word trigger. This triggered us. This got us all uptight. This is the rest of the world. This is just normal. They don't even care. But the ex-witnesses, this connected with them. It triggered them. And really, that's exactly how I feel. And that's a great way to express this whole thing, because people, I'm sure they're thinking, what the heck do these guys care about that? Well, no, we were triggered because we know how evil and heinous the Watchtower is. Angela, very good thoughts. I just want to make one announcement here first, and we got someone coming on the phone. I want to make one announcement. Is Aposta Babe, our favorite apostate. Is she on here with us tonight? Aposta Babe, you're coming on in about 10, 15 minutes. I want you to get ready. Aposta Babe, you'll be coming on 10, 15 minutes. So go ahead and get yourself all fixed up and ready to go to burn the midnight oil right here on the 6 screens. All right, we got someone on the telephone line. Go ahead, you're on with us.
Hold on, no, somebody.
Trigger. Hey, on the trigger thing, Rick, this is very important because Jimmy, if you're listening, this is Gilbert. We can probably do something. We can do a video straight to the police department, and everybody can email the police department. And they get overloaded with emails because the police department, no matter how good they're trained, they were never Jehovah's Witnesses, and they do not understand that why it's very important that why are 2 elders there at 7 o'clock or 7:30? Was there? They don't know the details because they never were Jehovah's Witnesses. And I think that if we were to just ask, like, say 7, 8, 9, 10 questions that are very pertinent. Like you ask, who would bomb a Kingdom Hall? I'll tell you who. Somebody who's related to a child sexual abuse relative. I could see someone say, you molested my niece, or you molested my stepdaughter, or whatever. I could see somebody blowing up a Kingdom Hall. You see, these are questions that the police don't think about because they're not Jehovah's Witnesses. But I think a good video with just straight questions that the police department gets bombarded with, they would have to answer. They would have to address these things. And what about the 911 calls? You know, why aren't they made public? You know, did the people call Watchtower first, or did they call the police first? These are questions we need to know. There's a lot of questions that we have.
Well, absolutely, Gilbert. And, you know, it's strange, but, you know, like I said, the rest of the world might not want to even care, but it's something, you know, I'll tell you what, we all experience things that are related to us. And this is totally related to us. We've all seen, we have a man right here tonight. We have a number of people here tonight. We have Joe, Fran, we have Angela and Dan. They know the hard, cold effects of being shunned. They've told us about this. They know what goes on. So we know that this is a catalyst. This is a murder sentence. When the Watchtower shuns someone, it can be a terrible situation. And that's what happened here in Colorado. And that's the piece of the puzzle that's missing. That's the piece of the puzzle that's missing.
Hey, Rick, can I just say one quick little thing? Because I don't want you guys to think that I don't get it when we get triggered, because I want to be honest with you. It's not that I don't get triggered still. Like this holiday, on Christmas Day, something happened and I got really bad triggered where my reaction was instantaneous. And I'm like, oh no, you know, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to beat myself up. I am still recovering. Obviously, I've got some work to do. And then when it was all said and done, I just went to God and I'm like, okay, Lord, obviously, you know, I do not want this to happen again. I don't want to have this sudden outburst like this. And I need you to fix it. I need you to heal this, because that this cannot happen. So I just feel like God's stepping us up, you know, when these little things happen like this, and they're going to happen again, guys. This is like a whole beginning of a lot of this going on. I assure you, we're going to have to over and over again see this. Okay. So each time it happens, we get this trigger again, we're going to have to go back down with God and ask him to heal the wounds, because otherwise we're going to be murderous, guys. You know, I mean, I'm serious, and we don't want that, right? So, but these are little baby steps towards when we get to really bad persecuted, and we might just get really bad persecuted in the future. We don't want to react the way we are now, and it's not even our life situation. So this is warning signs. It's opportunities for growth. And for those of you that aren't not, you know, on my bandwagon with me about this, it's okay. I love you anyway. I don't care if you're Christian or not Christian, or you're atheist. I couldn't care less. I really love you anyway, but this is just where I'm at. For those of you that can relate, great. I just wanted to throw it out. Okay.
Well, that makes, Angela, that makes a lot of sense. And thank you for saying that, because we wouldn't want, you know, we're on here tonight, and we want people to know that we're not getting ready to go bomb a Kingdom Hall, but to kill. Right. And I wouldn't advocate that. Thank you, Angela, for reminding me. And really, you have to bite your tongue a little bit, and you got to suck it up a little bit, and you try to show them as much concern and love as you can. And, you know, I've done that. I have done that with many Jehovah's Witnesses, even including my children that was shunning me. And you try to do it, and boy, I'll tell you what, you got to bite your tongue at times. You really do. And you got to be very careful. But that's good admonition. And we would never encourage anyone to go out and do some heinous act like that. Thank you.
Rick,
yeah,
this should be a wake-up call. I'm hoping it's a wake-up call for a lot of other witnesses, because, you know, a lot of witnesses should have had the wake-up call when they were selling off their halls and then saying they needed halls, and this you know, this double talk they're doing. But this is a wake-up call. I would say, what the hell just happened? What just happened in Woodland Park? What just happened in Thornton? You know, I'd start looking at the Australian Commission. This ought to be a wake-up call. And the problem is, Rick, the sickness, the mental illness comes in is when you don't answer the call. The Holy Spirit tries to tap on your shoulder. You know, these exterior things, halls being blown up, people getting killed, mothers killing their babies. All these should be wake-up calls.
Yes.
And so, I mean, as bad as it seems, I pray that a whole bunch of people, the alarm will go off in their brain, something will jar them, you know, hit them on the head, and make them go, whoa, you know, to get them out of this amnesia. Because here's the thing, and you know, we were told when we were in the witnesses, we were told, get out of Babylon the Great, get out, get out, get out. If you do not want to share in her destruction, while these guys are decreasing, while these guys are destructing, while they're coming apart, they're getting angry. The people on top, they're getting more vicious. They're getting more demanding. I wish they were all dead. You better listen to us like your life. You know, they're getting psychopaths. And so if you don't get out, you are going to share in that psychobabble. It's going to affect you. You know, just like this man who's down and they kick him in the teeth and say, you got to go through the disfellowshipping. But I want to read this one thing. It's a scripture. I don't ever read scriptures, but here it is. It's Deuteronomy 18:22. It says, when a prophet speaks in the name of Jehovah and it doesn't come to pass, the prophet has spoken presumptuously. Do not fear him. Do not fear him. It says, and so I think it's interesting that fear goes along with false prophets, that false prophets spin fear. They're elevating fear. Get your to-go bag. We're going to have a drill. And I saw one on TV where they were showing these alarms going off, you know, and the people start running out of the hall. And, you know, I mean, they got fear at a 5. They got fear at the highest level you can get it. And so I just think that's messing with these people's heads. And so the Bible says, get out. Get out. That would be my message to Pimo. These are wake-up calls. Get out. They've spoken presumptuously. They're false prophets. They've done it for over 100 years. They'll continue to do it, and they don't care.
And, you know, I bet you $1 million that if somebody went to the original translation of that scripture, I bet you $1 million that it says, do not follow these ones, not fear. I'll bet they change.
It says fear in a lot of them.
I know, but I would like to look that one up because you know, you get that sense that it's saying, why would you follow somebody who false prophesied? Anyway, for whatever that's worth. But I want to tell you guys one thing. Dan, one time when he was in his really bad times after having left the Jehovah's Witnesses, he had this moment where this woman just ticked him off. He got triggered, and literally he thought he had this thought that he wanted to go and just grab her up and throw her in the traffic. And that is what scared the crap out of him. And he finally realized, I am in deep doo-doo here. And he went and got counseling.
Time bomb.
And yeah, he's a time bomb. And that's what scared him. So if you guys are, if anybody you know of, and maybe you're a Jehovah's Witness right now listening to this, if you're feeling these feelings, then you need to go get help, guys.
Yeah, because that's where I think everybody's at. They're popping now. They're starting to pop.
Yeah.
And no drugs are going to help them because they're just being lied to, lied again, told left's right, right's left, dark's light, light's dark.
How long can you put up with that? How long can you take it?
Yeah, so these guys on top, it's just a job to them. The people that are in it think it's a real religion and a real thing, and they fear Jehovah. But the people on top, it's just a job. They go into a mastermind meeting and coordinate how many halls they're going to sell, how many they're going to, you know, it's a joke.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway.
All right.
Well, absolutely.
Rick?
Yes, go ahead. You're on with us. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick thought.
Yep.
In the late 70s, the Watchtower came out with an article saying we can now talk to disfellowship people, come over for dinner. We have to show them love. And then 6 months later, they turned around and said, no, we're going back to our regular rule. What does that tell anybody? That these are man-made rules. If you think of the Apostle Peter, he was told by Christ that he was going to deny him 3 times. Well, that's exactly what happened. He turned around and he cut the ear off of the high priest's servant. Was he disfellowshipped? Jesus had been resurrected. Did the apostles disfellowship him? You know, these are man-made rules. These are vicious men, and these are men that hide pedophilia, but they're just despicable, and I just really love Dan's passion. Keep going, Dan.
Well, someone mentioned earlier that you know, we ought to get a Nobel Prize for peace. We ought to have Dan in the running here. My goodness, he does have a lot of passion. Yes. Well, I think this program's coming to an end, but I've learned a lot. I've learned an awful lot here tonight. Yeah, go ahead.
One more thing, just to leave it
Yeah.
on a positive note.
Sure.
We have found more support in this community, the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. Joe and I have only been out, it's been a year. And we have come across so many people because of your program.
Yes.
There are people that are reaching out to us. And I think if we all reach out to each other and support each other and know that we're here for each other. We have people that call us from California, Arkansas, Alabama. They're checking on us. We're checking on them. And just a really quick experience. An ex from Alabama gave me 4 women that were exes. And one of them is right here in New York State. And I talked to her briefly. We didn't talk too much. I found someone who was in her same city. Come to find out they knew each other. They knew each other's family. They only lived a mile from each other. They didn't know that they were exes. So call it divine intervention, call it whatever you want. But now these two have, they're friends. And so we need to do that. So we're reaching out to people. We're trying to connect people. We are connecting people. And I know Dan and Angela are. I know a lot of you are. And I just want to thank you all because it's really been very positive.
And frankly, I'd like to continue this with whomever would like to continue it on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. No, well, Fran, thank you. It is quite a community. And, it's built up over the years. And, what it is with a lot of YouTubers, they have an audience, but the Six Screens actually has a community.
Mm-hmm.
And we all, you'd be surprised how many people do contact each other from getting in here and knowing there's actually been people that get married from meeting people here on the Six Screens. That's happened a few times. Yeah, it has. So it's been good, but you guys. Well, I'll tell you what, Dick. I know a few people. I'd like to say who it would be. Yeah. So.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Yeah, I did want to say I was looking over the article again, and it did say that the Kingdom Hall incident that did happen just after 9 a.m. It wasn't after 7. I think after 7 was about the time with the electricians union is when that happened. So there was a little confusion on that earlier. I just wanted to bring it out. And also Angela had asked the question about the use of the word fear in Deuteronomy 18. I just pulled up my Hebrew Old Testament, and it says that it's from the primitive, it's the word gur. It's from the primitive root to turn aside as a lodging, purpose, sojourn, quest, string, fear. It's basically do not abide, assemble, do not dwell with a person, do not have fear toward them, do not have any regard for them, do not gather together with them, do not even inhabit the same place as them or remain with them.
Well, there you go, Chad. Yeah, we're losing you. For some reason, we get you going pretty good, and then we lose your voice. But that's good,
I
Chad.
hear him.
It's the
No
train.
worries. Way to go.
Awesome. Get out,
Yes,
get out.
All right, there you go. Well, listen, there's a pasta babe. Is she on there with us? Linda, we got you waiting on the program. So we got the red carpet out for you. We got the platform all opened up. So pasta babe Linda, we're looking for you on the Six Screens. We're looking for you on our platform here on StreamYard. So go ahead and get in there when you can.
Hi, Rick.
There you are, Linda. Are you getting in there now?
Say that again, please.
Are you getting into the stream?
I'm looking for where you sent me this,
I sent it to you on Messenger.
which is exactly what I asked for last week. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All righty. Well, that's. Yeah.
moment or two, can you do that whole hang up and call again thing so it doesn't hang up in the middle of the show?
Yeah, when I end the program here, I'll do that. So it does that. Yeah. So we'll do the call. Okay, good. Thank you, Linda. So we'll see you in about a few minutes. Yeah. All right. So that's good. Yeah. So I guess we can wrap this up here now, guys. We got a pasta babe coming on. Does anyone have any last words? What would you like to say? Anyone on?
I just like to thank everyone for tuning in tonight, and I hope you've been edified by this, and maybe we've helped you in some way.
I'd like to do it again.
Well, we got Susan wants to say something. Susan, what do you want to say? Yeah.
I just want to thank you all for the strong community you've helped to develop among the 6 screens. I think you're right that the stronger the community, the better off we're going to be. So thank you all for taking the time to spend your last moments of 2022 with us.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. Okay, we had some people on the phone line. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, this is Thomas Haas in Lawrence, Kansas. I just had a suggestion for a lot of us.
Yeah.
How about if we just make a email out to the police department in Thornton, Colorado, and just kind of share some thoughts about what's typical of the Jehovah's Witnesses when things like this happen, how they treat people as shunning. If they got a bunch of emails, at least maybe could kind of brainstorm some things to try to help them with the case. Just a thought.
Well, that's a good thought. It's a good thought. I might send them up an email myself. We had Gilbert on here a little earlier saying that too. So yeah, we could all send them an email and, hey, listen, just tell them what happens when people are shunned and investigate that. Investigate the witnesses for shunning these people. Yeah. Good. Thank you, Thomas.
Yeah.
And also let them know that at every Kingdom Hall, they have a list of, any suspected pedophiles. They won't report them to the police, but they keep a list of them at the Kingdom Hall.
Yeah. Hey guys, Carrie K wanted to say hello, and I think Happy New Year. She's going to be coming on again on the show. So just want to let you know that. And, I'm going to be curious to see how when we all write to the police department in Thornton, what becomes of it. Because I'll tell you what, we had a complete shutdown. It didn't matter what, because Dan and I ran into the police in that town in Pennsylvania when we were investigating that Michael deal. We ran into county officials and all different kind of places, and the news, we called the news, and everybody was shut down. They were afraid of these witnesses. They were, we ran into the chief of police, it was a very high up police officer, investigator guy in Pennsylvania. And we told him all about the witnesses. We filled him in on how they operate, the problems, and the backstory, so that he would really get a handle on what actually really happened to Michael. And I'll tell you what, you could just tell it was going nowhere.
Hush, hush.
It was hush, hush. They're afraid of the witnesses. I'm telling you, these guys have more power than we can possibly understand, guys. And we need to get a handle on this. So I'm curious what's going to become of it, but I bet you $1 million it won't be as wonderful as we all wish it would be. Just going to say. Anyway, and then, by the way, one other thing. My book, again, coming out January the 3rd, Awakening from Unconscious Resentment. It's very, very good. It tells my crazy story of being in the first cult I was in, and then getting out of that, and then getting into another one, and how that took me down to nearly death, and then how I overcame, and how God did this, and how he helped me. And it's got all kinds of wonderful stories in there.
How can we buy that, Angela?
It's on Amazon. And right now, the Kindle version, you can pre-buy it. And then on January 3rd, you'll get your book come immediately to you in your email. It's Kindle ebook version. But on January 3rd, you can buy the real book. But it's very chock full of wonderful stories of all kinds that I used as my model people that helped me and changed my life and got me into a positive mode. I tell about Dan and I, just Dan and I's relationship, kind of how we built and grew together. But all the things I learned along the way, the tools of communication that make relationships great. And I learned it through the School of Hard Knocks, but I tell so many great stories. It's 300 pages long, and it goes through every aspect of your life, and we examine in great detail where are the resentments and why are they there? How did they get there? How do you get rid of it? How do you overcome? How do you rise above? And it's very victorious story. It's tragedy. It's crazy, but it's also victory. And God got to be all the glory to God, because, he got me to where I'm at right now. I was a mess, but I'm going to tell you, this is a powerful book. I'm very honest. I'm very real. And I just say it like it is.
Can you say the name again?
Yeah. Awakening from Unconscious Resentment.
Got it. Okay.
By Angela Clark. So anyway, I hope you guys will check it out. You can read a little bit about it on Amazon right now, but the Kindle version is only $2.99, guys. You know, what a great deal. And if you buy it and you don't have a Kindle book, they have a spot where you just say, it says right on when you buy the $2.99 and you get your link, it'll say view now or read now. It says read now. And if you push that read now button, you can read it without having to buy a Kindle thing. You read it right on your computer, I think right on your iPhone too, just by saying, yeah, I want to read it now. And so you don't even have to have any equipment or anything, but $2.99, it's a good read. Yeah. And but like I'm very real, guys, and what I discovered along the way and what changed my life, what made me who I am today, but powerful tools that will help anyone have a great relationship on how to get your voice, how to realize that you matter, just to get the ins and outs, things that we should never have learned the wrong way, but that we should have learned in school. And
she almost died.
I did. I almost died, but I made it. Yay! God is good.
We're
All right.
Glad you made it.
Can I quickly say?
Yes.
The worst experience in my life has been being involved with Watchtower, Jehovah's Witness organization, but the best experience of my life is being involved with you and us as XJWs.
I agree.
I agree. Yep. Yep.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Love that train noise. Love that train noise.
You guys got to get going. You missed the train.
Hey.
Not us this time.
No,
Hey.
See you guys later.
All right. Love y'all.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Joe and Fran.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Happy New
Don't
Year.
get you drunk.
Oh,
No.
Thank you very much. All right. We love you guys. Yeah.
Love
Keep
you all.
praying. Yeah. Well, there
Bye,
you
everyone.
have it. Yeah. Well, there you have it. What a great program that was. And we really enjoyed it. And, Fran brought something up that made a lot of sense to me. The word trigger. The word trigger. Let's just focus on that. That's why we had this special program tonight. It triggered us. As ex-witnesses, something hit us when we heard that story. And we know the facts are not being told. So let's hope they come out. Well, we're going to pause to Babe. She's going to be coming up next. She burns the midnight oil here at the 6th Screen. She's your favorite apostate, and she'll be coming here very, very shortly. But now, listen, you guys, we thank you for coming in on YouTube. Boy, we had we had over 200 for our previous program and live streaming. That's not too bad. That's okay. And then we had, we had up to 200 I saw here too on this program. So we appreciate your audience, the audience out there on YouTube and Facebook, a lot of people coming in on that too. So we want to thank all you folks coming in on Facebook, coming in on YouTube. And, we can all speak up and talk and create this really neat community where we can all talk about what went on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. Well, we're going to end this broadcast, and we're going to have Apostle Babe coming on here very shortly. I'm going to see if she's on the other platform now. So there she is now.
Yes.
So we're going to end this program right here, folks. Apostle Babe is in the bullpen. She's ready to come out. So let's end the program right here, folks. And thank you very much for coming on and being part of our special program right here on our 6 Screens network. All right, we're ending.